Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're gonna be installing this roof rack, the Platform 1, on a GX470. We're gonna be walking you through all the steps of how to get this process done. But before you watch this video, there's two other videos you should watch first. The first video is gonna be how to actually assemble the entire rack. So how to get that all together. That's gonna be the same for every single vehicle. And then the other video you're gonna wanna watch is the complete wiring guide. That's gonna show you how to wire this thing and also the best practices for wiring. So where should you run things down depending on your vehicle. Okay, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into step number one. So step number one is going to be removing the OEM roof rack. This truck has had its fair share of roof racks on it, so it hasn't had an OEM roof rack for like 5 years. So once you remove the OEM roof rack, the next step is going to be assembling the new platform. Again, we have a video all about that, about how to actually assemble that. So go ahead and watch that video and then come back over here for step number 3. Step number 3 is going to be actually installing all the L brackets along the roof. So when you remove the OEM rack, you would notice that there's 2 little plugs on this. Since we're working on a GX470, this is going to be an older vehicle, so let's just be a bit more delicate in this area. Once you remove the OEM rack, I recommend at least putting either the OEM bolts back in or something just to make sure that those are being held. When I'm gonna be putting on the new hardware, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna do it one at a time. I'm gonna be removing one of these, putting the new one on, and just kind of swiveling it into place to make sure I don't lose that weird, it's like a nut bar. I wanna make sure I don't lose that, because if that falls down, it goes in the headliner, which means we have to pull the headliner to get that. So I wanna do everything I can to make sure that does not happen. So we're gonna remove these and then slowly add and replace things as we go. So before you go ahead and start putting the bolts in here, the next thing we need to do is make sure we're doing RTV around these bushings. You've already seen it if you watch any of our other install guides on how to do this, but we will show you an up close of how to do it. But once you get that done, it's also really handy to actually clean around the area. I'm not gonna do that, but you totally should. All right, so you wanna just go ahead and seat it in, get it nice and seated. So now, like I said before, I'm gonna go ahead and put one side of the bracket on before I take this one out. So we're gonna grab our bolt with our sealing washer and our standard washer and go ahead and just start getting this hand tightened. And all we're gonna try to do here is make sure that we're getting that nut bar nice and tight on there so we don't lose it when we loosen the other one. So go ahead and get this hand tight. All right, so that's perfect. So now we're gonna go ahead and take the other one off. You see how when I'm moving this one's moving? That's why you want to make sure this one's at least hand tight so you don't lose that in the roof liner. To this side, grab our bushing. All right, so now that all the brackets are on, fun stuff is gonna start happening. We're gonna go ahead and start putting the rack on for test fitting, and then we'll be almost ready to rock and roll. Okay, so before we cheat and use this forklift to actually put this on the truck, you wanna go through and just make sure everything is nice and tight. So check every bolt, check every hex, just make sure everything is tight. Go in a nice circle to make sure. It laying down like this is gonna be the best opportunity for you to tighten everything. It's obviously gonna be way harder to do once it's on the truck. So go ahead and do that there, and then once we're done with this, we're gonna go ahead and put it on the truck. So once you get the rack sitting right where you need it to be, what you're gonna go ahead and do is, as you're holding it, whether you have 4 people doing this or you have a handy dandy forklift doing this, you're gonna wanna start pushing your bolts through, and these are gonna be the carriage bolts that go onto the outside, and you're gonna wanna make sure you start capturing them on the inside with that washer and then a nut. You wanna make sure you just get them hand tight just as much as you can go before you hit nylon, just to make sure that that's not going anywhere and that's gonna be on there for good. Next thing we're gonna start doing is start test fitting it. We're gonna start sliding it back and forth, making sure it actually sits flush with the way it's supposed to sit, meaning it's gonna be equal on both sides. So we got all this side in, we're gonna go ahead and work on that side, and then we're gonna start moving this back and forth and getting it aligned. Okay, so once you get everything lined up as you think looks great, what you're gonna go ahead and do is you're gonna start buttoning up all of the L brackets. So the actual little tiny bolts, the 10mm bolts, you're gonna be bolting those first, and then once we get those nice and sucked up, we're gonna go ahead and take care of the roof mounted bolts. So the larger 13mm bolts. Okay. Okay, so next up, once you got everything tightened up, we're gonna talk about this front bracket right here. So, normally on a GX470, GX550, GX460, 4Runner, Land Cruiser, Tacoma, any of the Toyotas, you're gonna basically opt out of having to drill and riv nut now because we have this amazing bump stop technology. However, on this rack, on this roof, just because with the old prototype rack, we actually did have to drill and riv nut. I already have a hole. Instead of pulling that riv nut out, spot welding it and fixing all that stuff, we're just gonna add a second bolt right there instead of doing the bump stop on this rack in particular. For this install, we're actually gonna let Brad explain how to do the bump stop install on his Land Cruiser 250, which is the same as this one along with the other Toyotas in the fleet.
So the last bracket we're going to install is actually a bump stop. And so this rests on the rain gutter. Now, in order to get this installed, we're going to use what's called an air shim. And this basically sticks in here. And this is a nice to have tool. This sticks in here, we'll pump it up, and then that'll give us enough room to put this in here, install it with just a little bit of tension. Now, if you don't have an air shim, get your buddy that helped you install a roof rack and put a little upward pressure on there. Install this because you want this to be a little bit of tension, so this keeps this nice and firm. That way our light bar is going to be nice and solid.
All right, and really the last step is going to be installing your light bar. So it's way easier with a friend, but then you're pretty much done. So once you have that light bar installed, you are done. Just do one more little round of shaking the rack around, make sure nothing's loose. If anything is loose, just do one more round of tightening and make sure you're good to go, but that's it. You are done. You can start throwing accessories up there, start getting it all ready for your next adventure, but that's how to install the Platform 1 on your GX470.